Are you thinking about getting a walker and you're not sure what you need to know before buying one? Today, we will learn all about walkers and in particular, upright walkers. So stay tuned to learn how you can save 7% off an OasisSpace walker by using a special promo code that's being offered to you as my valued listeners on this episode, which happens to be my 150th. Welcome back to This is Getting Old, Moving Towards an Age-Friendly World. I'm Dr. Melissa Batchelor, and I am a nurse practitioner, and I wear a lot of different hats in my work, including hosting this weekly podcast to bring you news and information on aging, caring for someone living with Alzheimer's disease, and a wide range of topics that I hope will help move us towards becoming an age-friendly world. Because when things are age-friendly, they're friendly for everyone. So if you like the podcast, the best way to help me grow and support the podcast is to like it, share it, and leave a review in whatever platform you've tuned in on today. Because no matter how old you are today, we are all aging, and these issues are going to become increasingly important. If you're a millennial, there are things that need to be in place when you reach the age of 65. So we have about 20 to 25 years to get these things in place to help you age with the support and choices that will help you, just like the people that are 65 today. Your likes, shares, and reviews help get the information out to help more people dealing with these issues. But right now, let's get going on this week's episode. So now let's dive into this week's episode where I'm reviewing the OasisSpace Upright Walker, and I'm going to share 5 things you need to know before you get one. So I recently did an episode with my grandmother where I shared things that you need to know before you buy a mobility scooter. And in today's episode, my oldest son and I and my grandmother are going to be checking out an upright walker in a collaboration with OasisSpace. And I'm really excited about this episode because it's my 150th. It's my first collaboration, and I got to do it all with my family. So it was a win-win-win. So here's what I learned about walkers. Some of the information I knew, some of it was new to me though. But in general, walkers are used to provide a large base of support to a person who has either poor balance or lower extremity weakness. And there are a lot of different types of walkers. So the first is a standard walker. And a standard walker doesn't have wheels. The person has to be able to pick the walker up and move it forward as they walk. And I've actually seen these used a lot in the therapy department and nursing homes, and they'll often put tennis balls on the feet so the person can just kind of scoot the walker along, but they have enough traction that they can control the walker. The second type of walker is a 2-wheeled rolling walker. And this type of walker has 2 wheels on the front and 2 feet on the back. And this is so the person has a little bit more control over how fast the walker moves, and the back feet have rubber stops on them in case the person kind of needs to put on the brakes. The third type of walker is a 4-wheel rolling walker, which is often referred to as a rollator walker. These have 4 wheels, and they're a type of walker for a person who needs the walker more for sitting and resting when they're not able to walk longer distances due to endurance reasons. But these types of walkers generally are not as stable as one that has kind of solid feet. And then we're to the upright walkers. These are a newer model of walkers, and they allow the person to stand up straight because the handles and the armrests are positioned higher than a rollator walker. So an upright walker allows the person to support their weight on their forearms rather than on their wrists or their hands that traditional walkers require. So that means there's less pressure on the lower back, neck, arms, and wrists. So most walkers are covered by durable medical equipment under Medicare Part B, but the person has to pass what's called a cost effectiveness and a medical necessity, pass the medical necessity criteria outlined by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or CMS, and the supplier has to be enrolled with Medicare. And when I asked OasisSpace if they were enrolled with Medicare, they said that they were not, but they were going to look into it. So right now, the cost of this type of walker would be private pay or out of pocket, but you can save 7% by using the promo code. What I didn't know was that there is a limited amount of research that's actually been done on walkers in clinical trials. And this is where you need to listen up because the experts in this area are still saying that we need more high quality research to be done before we can really come to any conclusions about the effectiveness of walkers. So even though they're common, I've seen them forever, I really didn't realize that we don't have a lot of evidence base around how and why we're using them. So if you do use any type of assistive device, make sure that your loved one can use it safely. From what I was able to find, there is limited research on rollators and their impact on a person's walking ability. And many of the studies that have been done are with younger people, and the information has just been extrapolated to older adults, which doesn't give accurate information about how an older adult would use the device. And while rollator walkers are intended to help a person walk more safely, they actually still cause a high rate of falls. And many rollators are hard for an older adult to handle. But for older adults like my grandmother, they are still using them to increase their ability to be active and to participate in the world. For my grandmother, she's got one in her house. She's got one in her garage to walk over to my aunt's house next door. She's got one at church, and she's got one in the trunk of her car if she goes anywhere with the family. And she uses her cane for quick trips kind of that are in and out, and her scooter for longer times when she needs to shop. So she's figured out how to integrate her assistive devices, and they each seem to have a distinct role to help keep her out and about and doing things that she wants to do. And she was very excited to try this stand-up walker because she felt like it would help her stand up straighter, because a lot of times she walks pretty hunched over and can't see people in front of her. She says, I can just see everybody's shoes. When I went to PubMed, the most recent articles were actually systematic reviews, editorials, or pilot studies. And actually one published study was a content analysis of online reviews from Amazon's US website. And so what this means is that this level of evidence isn't as rigorous as like a randomized controlled clinical trial. But the content analysis focused on the different types of assistive devices. So walkers, rollators, canes were included, and they looked at the injuries and grouped them by the severity of the injury and kind of the injury pathway. And these included things like device failure. So something broke or came apart and led to an injury, or it had some unintended movement that caused an injury, or it did poorly transitioning between surface areas, or it had its own trip hazards with its design. So I was like, that's a lot of stuff to be thinking about when you're getting ready to buy a walker. So now we've talked about the 4 different types of walkers and the state of the science that I was able to find to support their use. And when we come back, we're going to dive into the 5 things that you need to think about before you get a walker. And I'm going to share my thoughts about the Oasis Walker. You have a great story behind a product or service you've created for older adults or their families, or maybe you have educational content you'd like to share and position that product or service in front of an engaged target demographic. If so, I'd like for you to know that you can now become an episode partner with me, and you can learn more about this by visiting my website at melissabphd.com. So let's talk about the assembly process for the Oasis Walker. It arrived in a box. It had all the parts and the manual, and the box had everything in it that we needed. The upper handles and legs snapped really easily into place, and there were little stickers that help you match up, so that we're putting it together correctly, like A to A, B to B, and we didn't need any tools to put it together. The actual hardest part of assembling the walker was getting the brake wires into the clips that are attached to the handles of the walker to get them to go into place. It took a lot of hand strength to get those suckers in there. But between my son and I, we managed to get them into place after several minutes and tries. And there was only one part that we really weren't sure what to do about, but when we read the directions and looked back through them, it at least let us know that it wasn't an extra part, but it was actually a cane holder. So we figured out later where that went. So now that we had it put together, we took off to my grandmother's house to let her test it out. So first thing to know, quality design. So in general, the walker needs to be of high quality so that it doesn't end up causing an energy. And the Oasis Walker seemed to be of very high quality. It was sturdy, it was secure, and it was stable once we got it together. And it seemed like it would hold the weight limit that it said that it generally would safely. So be sure that you're reading the size charts carefully so that you know what the weight limit is for the type of walker you're going to be getting. Many of these actually go up to 300 pounds, but they may only be available in one weight capacity. The next thing is adjustability of the arms. So we had the arms of the walker set too high at first, but it was easy to move them further down so that they were at my grandmother's height. She's 5'6" now, and this walker is designed for people that were 5 to 6 feet tall. But I think if you're actually shorter than my grandmother or you can't stand up straight, that this walker could end up being too tall. So this could be like a trial and error. So make sure that your walker has a return policy. The seat needs to have a comfortable fit, especially if the person is close to the weight limit. Nonnie is well under the weight limit for this walker, and she was comfortable sitting in the walker chair. This walker also came with a really nice detachable bag, although it did take a few tries to figure out how to secure it around the walker bars and to get the Velcro to kind of stay attached, but we got it. And then the unique feature I'd never seen on a walker was this cane holder. And it didn't seem like, it did seem like a good idea in theory, and it probably just depends on the type of cane that the older adult has, because as you can see in the video, the cane holder kind of put the cane in an awkward place and made it difficult for the cane to be there and for her to grab a hold of the brakes. Second thing to think about is the stability and the controllability and how well the person is able to use the brakes. So now we were finally ready. We had it adjusted and we were ready to check out the walker. And when you use a stand-up walker, the person's center of gravity is going to be higher than it is with the traditional walker. The upright walker needs to have a wide enough base of support so that it doesn't tip forward when the person hits a bump or a crack, because that could lead to a fall. The OasisSpace walker did have a lot of stability, and my grandmother was able to control the walker when she was walking with it outdoors. And the amount of space that she had to walk within the walker was adequate, so that reduced her risk of the walker being a trip hazard. After reading those reviews, I was very concerned about the trip hazard piece. And then when we went inside to kind of look at controllability, due to the walker's size and the size of the space in my grandmother's house, it was made for some very tight turns. So while some of the moves that she made me nervous, she needed to try this walker out with how she would actually use it, or at least try to use it in that way. And this is one difference in doing a review with an actual person who's going to use it versus an able-bodied person trying to think about different ways the person might actually use the product. Third thing to think about is uneven surface handling and ease of use. So you want to be sure that the model that you choose most closely matches the intended location of use. So either indoors or outdoors. While we were outdoors, Nonnie had no problem using this walker, but it was a little bit different when we got inside of her house. Some of this has to do with her throw rugs. Nonnie loves her throw rugs on her carpets, and I've asked her to take those up, which she lets me do, and they stay up until I leave. So in this video, you can see when she was coming in the back door from her garage, the front wheels of the walker actually got stuck on those throw rugs as we were trying to come in the back door, and then later around the door into her kitchen. And she has enough balance and strength that she's able to lift the front part of this walker over those surface differences. And other parts of her home weren't nearly as difficult for her to navigate. She was able to get around through her kitchen. She could get down her hallway to her bedroom. And overall, it didn't seem like it was very hard for her to push on carpet or transition over to her linoleum. So she did take those rugs up for me while I was there. I'm pretty sure if we went back today, they would be back down. Anyways, number 4, trip hazards or unintended movement. So when I was with Nonnie, we really couldn't figure out how to get the brakes to set so that she could lock the brakes and then turn around and sit down. I did figure that out a few days later, and I called to tell her, but she informed me that she'd already figured it out. In fact, she said she figured it out shortly after we left. The brake wires for this particular walker do stick out a little bit, but I think that could actually be solved with the use of like zip ties to keep those wires a little bit closer to the walker. We didn't try that because I'm not sure if it would interfere with collapsing the walker, but I actually don't think that it would. So it would just kind of bring those brake wires a little bit closer so they don't get stuck on anything as she's passing by it and accidentally trip my grandmother. The last, number 5, is folding and transporting. So this kind of goes back to the scooter episode that I did. When this scooter was extended to the full height, which when we assembled it, that's where we left it. It was actually hard to get it in the back of my car. And I drive like a mid-sized SUV, but we had to take everything else out of the back of the trunk to get it to fit into my car. But it does easily collapse down to its smallest size. And once we got the wheels to kind of stay in place. It fit easily into the back of my car when it was adjusted to fit Nonnie's height. This version of the Oasis Walker only folds down, like it just kind of collapses together. And I had actually wanted to try their foldable version, but it was on back order for 4 months. But I really think that version is going to be a better seller for this company because it collapses and then it folds in half. So it makes it a much smaller size to fit into more vehicles. And it actually weighed a little bit less. This particular walker weighed between like 15 to 20 pounds. And while my son and I could lift it without any trouble, my Nonnie thought she would try it out herself. And so she did that while we tried to make sure she didn't fall. Sorry, the video is a little crazy, but I was standing in the wrong place when she went to do this. But the walker was too heavy for her. And this actually led to the conversation about how and why she has all of these different walkers stashed around kind of her activity pathways. And that's because she can't lift the walker, or she doesn't want to have to ask anyone else to help her when she goes different places. So again, very crafty little lady to have figured out where she needs to put her walkers so that her life works for her. But overall, we both really liked the Oasis Walker. We initially thought that she would use it indoors several times a day to try to regain some of the strength in her back to help her stand up straighter. But after she had the walker for a few days, she let me know that she was a lot more likely to use it outdoors to either walk down her driveway when my aunt was home, or at least back and forth to my aunt's house. And I think it's just because the walker was too big and bulky for her inside of her home. And like I said, I'm pretty sure she put those throw rugs back down as soon as I left. But I love her. So if you'd like to try out an Oasis Walker, just click on the link below in the description if you're listening on YouTube or any of the podcast platforms. And you just use the code Melissa7 to get 7% off your purchase. And I think you're going to be really happy with your purchase, so much so that you might want to get 3 or 4 of them like my grandmother. So thank you for being part of this 150th episode, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. You can check out other episodes on this platform or visit my website at melissabphd.com. Thanks to listeners like you, in the first 18 months of This Is Getting Old, we have reached a ranking of top 10% globally, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your support in making that happen. I'm also really excited to let you know that you can now work with me directly, either one-on-one or you can join one of the groups that I coach, particularly if you're an adult child dealing with an aging parent or a caregiver trying to manage the complexities of someone living with Alzheimer's disease. In the show notes, you can also find information about how to reach out and contact me directly, and I hope to work with each of you very soon as we discover and share more ways to make the world more age-friendly for everyone. My website also has information about how to contact me for speaking engagements, or if you have someone you'd like to recommend as a show guest for This Is Getting Old. If you have a product or service in the aging space that you would like to advertise and or sponsor an episode, there's more information about that on my website. And you can also find books and courses that I developed and learn more about the products and services that I recommend. So don't forget, if you like the podcast, the best way to help me grow and support it is to like it, share it, and leave a review in whatever platform that you've tuned in on today. Your likes, shares, and reviews help increase my rating and my rankings, and also help other people find the podcast. I look forward to reading your reviews and hearing from you.